What's up, y'all? Welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, hello and welcome. Today we are doing an eyeshadow palette ranking. I have 21 palettes sitting here in front of me that I have thoroughly tested over the past month or so. I've created multiple different looks, used every single shade in all these palettes, and I am ready to give you my final thoughts. If you are new to my palette rankings, I just want to let you know that I do rank these by collection. So although I do have 21 palettes, there are only going to be 16 slots in this ranking. So just in case you get into it and you're like, why is she starting with 16 if she has 21 palettes? That's how I like to do it. It makes the most sense in my mind. Now, before I jump into this, I do want to just put a little disclaimer out there letting y'all know this video is just for fun. It all comes down to my personal preference as far as color story, formulation, and how I like to do my makeup. So if your favorite is not my favorite, that is 100% okay. Makeup is not a one size fits all. We all have our own preferences, but feel free to leave down below in that comment section how you would have ranked these. I will have all these palettes listed and linked down below if they are available to do so, as well as what I am wearing on my face. So per usual, if you're ever curious about anything I use in any of my videos, always check the description box. I squeeze as much information as I possibly can into that tiny little space. But let's go ahead and get started because, like I said, we've got 21 palettes to get through. Starting us off at number 16 is going to be the iconic London Treat Yourself palette. I did get this one in a boxy charm and I just wasn't impressed with it. The matte formula in here was okay. I didn't get any patching, skipping, or fallout, but I did have to work extra hard to build up the pigmentation on my lid to get the depth that you see in the palette, and I just didn't find the mattes to be very easy to manipulate and blend on my lid. And as far as the shimmers in here go, they are very lackluster. I found them to be hard to pick up with my finger, even with a brush, and once I got them on the lid, I just wasn't impressed with the way that they looked. None of the looks that I created with this made me want to reach for this palette more, which is why I've had such a hard time getting through this and getting to every single shade so I could give you my final thoughts for this one. As far as the color story goes, it's fine. It's very neutral with a couple of pops of color in here, but your pops of color are all going to come from shimmers. You only have one matte in here that is a colorful matte. I definitely think that this color story could have been scaled down quite a bit. There's a lot of color overlap in here, and there's just a lot left to be desired from this one. So it's just not a favorite of mine. I will probably declutter it, and I say that as somebody who doesn't really declutter palettes from her collection. So take with that what you want. This just is not a favorite palette of mine. At number 15, we have the Moon Magic palette from Moonslice Beauty, and I got this one in my July Ice Cream Beauty box. This is a very pretty color story. I love the purples in here, which is why I chose this one out of the two that we had to choose from. I like the pops of pink. I like that we have like these wine berry shades. There is a lot of depth in here. The mattes look beautiful on the lid. You definitely have to work a little bit harder to build up the pigmentation, but it is 100% there. I don't get patching, skipping, or fallout with the mattes either. My issue comes to the shimmers in here. They do look very pretty on the lid. They're not super shifty or anything like that. They do feel nice and smooth. They go on really nicely. I don't get any accentuation when it comes to texture, but I do get creasing with the shimmers in this palette, and it doesn't matter what I use to apply them, whether it's with NYX glitter primer, whether it's with just a regular primer. I've used it with concealer. I've sprayed a brush and put them on, and I always get creasing around that 7-hour mark. And for me, I'm someone who likes to wear my makeup 10 to 12 hours just because that's how my day goes. I put it on the morning and I don't take it off until night. I just go all day and I get creasing, and once I go in and try to pat it out, it takes a little bit of that shimmer and sparkle away and just kind of takes away from the look. So it's not a bad palette. I would definitely reach in here for the mattes, but the shimmers just aren't going to be my favorite. At number 14, we have the Archeo, Paleo, and Oceano palettes from Clionadh, and this hurts to put this one here because these are absolutely beautiful. These cost a pretty penny. These each retail for around $75 a piece, and they're just not favorites of mine. These took me a really long time to review because I reached for these over and over because I wanted to make sure that I have my full collective thoughts on these before I sat down and included them in one of these videos. With that being said, I'm going to tell you my feelings on the formula because it's the same across the board, and then I'll run through the palettes and tell you which one was a favorite out of all three of these. So when it comes to the mattes, I found the mattes in here to be very finicky. There's a lot of kick up in the pan. They are very powdery, and whenever I first reviewed these, I said it's best to go in with a very light hand and build up. up, but when you do that, it takes a long time to build up. It takes a lot of finessing, it takes a lot of elbow grease, but if you go in with a lot right off the bat, you get a ton of fallout and it's hard to come back from that. If you're somebody who does your base makeup after you do your eyes, that may not be a big deal to you because you can just wipe it away, but for me, I like to do my base makeup first and then do my eyes. It's just a personal preference thing. I've tried it the other way around and I always end up messing my eye makeup up. But I played with these again today. This is actually the one that I am wearing, and I don't know if you can see, I still have some remnants of that darker shade on my outer corner from fallout. I tried really hard to brush it away, and the more I did, the bigger mess that I made, so I just kind of left it alone. So the mattes in here, they're not my favorite. I wanted to love the matte formula in here, but I just don't. I find it to be more work than it's worth. But the shimmers in here are absolutely beautiful. I said it in my original video that Clionadh definitely shines when it comes to their shimmers, and the shimmers in here are beautiful. These are not their stained glass shimmers, but they are still very beautiful, reflected. They have shifts and things like that in them. So for me, if I'm going to reach into these palettes, it's more than likely going to be for the shimmers over the matte shades. But let's run through these really quick because I do have favorites and least favorites out of all of these, although they are all absolutely beautiful when it comes to the color story. So my least favorite out of the three is going to be the Oceano palette. And it's more so just the color story is a little chaotic for me. It doesn't inspire me as much as I want to. I like this one mixed better with one of the other two from the collection, but it is a very beautiful color story. The shimmers in here are beautiful. I love this orange one over here in this really light purple shade. It's absolutely stunning as well. But again, it's the mattes when it comes to these palettes. My second favorite one, so I guess the middle one out of these, is going to be the Paleo palette, and I think this was actually my favorite whenever I first reviewed these, but the more I played with, it's the Archeo palette. But this one is very pretty. I like the matte selection in here, and actually the mattes in this one performed better than any of the other mattes. I had less of an issue with these, but I did still have to work pretty hard with them. The shimmers in here are beautiful as well. I love this multi-chrome right here. It has like this purple to green to like yellow flip. Absolutely stunning. The blues in here are beautiful as well. But my favorite out of these three, and the one that I'm actually wearing on my eyes today, is the Archeo palette. And this one is very pretty. I love the color selection in here. I love the shimmers in here. I am wearing these three mattes on my lid and then these two shimmers as well. And it is a very pretty look. I love the way that it turned out, which is why I'm so torn about these palettes, because once you finally get them on the eye, they look absolutely beautiful. I have other mattes in my collection that are so much easier to work with, and for the price point, I shouldn't have to work that hard. But these are magnetic, so you know, if you're just interested in the shimmers in here, or maybe you picked them up and you're having the same issue, you could 100% depot these, put these in other palettes and things like that. But if you are interested in these for the shimmers and not the mattes, I would say just go for their stained glass ones and pick out some of those. Now from this point moving forward, all of these palettes perform beautifully. There is nothing wrong with the quality in any of these. There is no patching, skipping, fallout. I don't have any issues blending the shades, building up pigmentation, or anything like that. It all comes down to personal preference and what color stories I am gravitated towards at the moment. So just something to kind of keep in mind as we move forward. So coming in at number 13 is going to be the Bella Beauty Bar Melted Mattes palette. This is absolutely beautiful. The quality in here is fantastic. Bella Beauty Bar has some of my absolute favorite mattes on the market, and these are no exception to that. My issue with this, well, it's not really an issue. It comes down to personal preference. It's an all matte palette. I don't do a whole lot of all matte looks, so for me, this is more of a companion palette. I love that we have all these neutrals up here. This is probably going to be something that I reach into a lot if I just want a good neutral in the crease, or maybe some neutrals to build around a beautiful shimmer shade. I also love the neons in here as well. I kind of forgot that word for a minute. I think they're beautiful. I do, however, wish that we had a little bit more variety when it comes to these two rows down here, because it is very pink and orange with like this pop of yellow over here. I would have loved to have seen like some more greens and purples and things like that. But again, that's just a personal preference thing. The formula in here is absolutely stunning. At our number 12 spot, we have the NYX Beetlejuice Color for the Recently Deceased palette. This one was so good. I have loved the looks that I've created with this. I was blown away by the quality in here. I don't think I've ever tried NYX eyeshadows before, and if I have, it's been a really long time, so I wasn't really expecting too much. Honestly, I picked it up because it's a Beetlejuice themed collection, and I absolutely love Beetlejuice, but the mattes in here are so incredibly good. They are nice and soft, very easy to blend and put on the eye. The pigmentation is there, and the shimmers in this palette, I was really impressed with the shimmers, with how beautiful they are. Are they nearly as flippy and reflective and smooth as ones that I have from indie brands? No, but as far as a very affordable drugstore brand goes, these are absolutely beautiful, and I love the color story in here. This pop of blue, this black, this lime green, on point. Love the theme, love the palette, fantastic quality. At the number 11 spot, we have the Floating Life palette from Kenyon in collaboration with Freya 86. And this is a beautiful palette. For me, this comes down to the color story. I'm not a big fan of gray eyeshadows. I will wear them from time to time, but for me personally, if a palette has a lot of grays in it, it's just not one that I'm going to reach for. I personally love this half of the color story more than this half over here, but this does lean a little bit dark for me, and I feel the urge to bring in something a little bit lighter to kind of blend these shades out with. As far as the formula in here goes, this is absolutely beautiful. I have been on a huge C Beauty kick later. You will see more coming. I have more sitting over here to film with. I have absolutely been loving it. The matte formulas in these palettes are some of the most amazing matte formulas I have ever played with. They are quickly working their way up to be favorite formulas of mine. But like I said, this one comes down to color story for me. There is nothing wrong with this one. I do have more from this brand to test out that I am really excited about, and I cannot wait to show you. But again, like I said, for me, it's the color story. I sound like a broken record. I know I'm repeating myself, but this is a beautiful palette, and a huge congratulations to Freya 86 for her collaboration with Kenyon. At number 10, we have the Nomad Cosmetics Haunted Europe palette. Now this is a re-release. It originally launched 2 years ago, but this is not reformulated. So if you picked it up 2 years ago, this is the exact same formula, exact same palette, so there's nothing new there. I never got it when it originally launched, so I picked it up when they re-released it for a limited time, and I love this color story in here. I think it is so beautiful. I love the tones, I love the depth, I love the pops of color with a little bit of neutral in here. This is a very pretty color story, and I'm so happy to have it. As far as the matte formula in here goes, this is a really nice matte formula. It's not nearly as good as what we have seen from Nomad recently, but I don't have any issues as far as performance goes with this one. The shimmers in here are very beautiful as well. They are a little bit more, I don't want to say on the lackluster side, because they do look very pretty on the lid, but they're not quite as creamy and reflective and smooth as what we have seen from the brand now. So for that reason, that's why it's going right here. There is nothing wrong with the quality in this one. I am just more likely to reach for the palettes ahead of this one over this one, but I like this one more than the ones preceding it, if that makes any sense. Coming in at number 9, I have these 3 palettes from Girl Cult. I do realize that these 2 were from one collection and this one was from a separate one, but since I tried them all together as a collective, I decided to go ahead and rank them as a collective. Now, I will take these out of the box in just a minute and show you the color stories, but these are so incredibly beautiful. Again, another C Beauty brand. The formula is fantastic. The mattes are absolutely beautiful. I love the shimmers in here as well, but these are quads. So as much as I love a quad, I love the ease of a quad. I love how quick they can be. I do generally like a little bit more variety when it comes to my color stories, but let's run through these. So my least favorite out of the 3 was the Wizard of Oz palette. Now, this one is very pretty. First of all, the packaging on all these is absolutely gorgeous, but this is the one that is more on the neutral side. I do love the color combination in here. The shimmer over here is absolutely beautiful. This one just leans a little bit too dark for my taste. I wish this had been just a little bit lighter, and maybe this had been a little bit darker to give me the full look that I personally would go for, but quality wise, absolutely beautiful. The next one is going to be the Mermaid Crying Tears palette. Sorry, I had to pull out these all of these out of the box. I have my boxes labeled because everything is in Chinese and I can't read Chinese. So like I said, next we have the Mermaid Crying Tears palette. This one is so beautiful. You get 2 mattes and 2 shimmers in this one. This blue is incredibly vibrant on the lid. I love the combination of the brown, and these 2 shimmers are beautiful as well. But my favorite one out of the 3, which kind of surprised me because this isn't a color story I typically go for, is the Like Fire Quad. And this is the one that's actually from a different collection. So the other 2 are from the Sci-Fi Mythology series, and this one is from the 4 Great Inventions series. And like I said, this is the Like Fire one, so you can see it has different packaging, and this is our color story on the inside. I loved the look that I created with this one, and I have created more looks since. I've left this one out and just focused on this one. I've really gone in harder with this one. It's a beautiful, beautiful palette. I love the color combination in here. I love the formula in here. These are so incredibly beautiful, and if you can find these on sale over at TikTok or whatever and you're interested in them, I highly recommend picking them up because the formula is fantastic. Coming in at number 8 is going to be the Gourmande Girls Gourmandes palette. I know I'm pronouncing that wrong. It is what it is. I apologize. This is a beautiful palette. I love the color selection in here. They are vibrant, they are beautiful. I love that it is a matte heavy palette, and I do love the variety of shimmers in here. I'm not the biggest fan of the silver shimmer. That comes down to a personal preference thing. It kind of goes in the same category as like grays. It's just not a go-to shimmer shade for me, but this is very beautiful. I don't have any issues as far as the quality in here goes. The mattes perform absolutely beautiful. I love the looks that I've created with this one, and this is one of those palettes that I will be more excited to reach for in like the spring and going into the summer months. But now that we're moving into the fall, this just isn't a color story that I'm really gravitating towards right now. Coming in at number 7 is the Simply Posh Coastal palette. This one is absolutely beautiful. I love the color selection in here. These are very pigmented. These all come off a lot darker on the skin than they look in the pan, and they look beautiful. They are very easy to blend out, very easy to work with. I'm not a big fan of these 2 shades right here. Even though they have more of like a green undertone to them, they pull very gray on my cool skin tone, and like I've said before, I'm not a big fan of grays, so that's really the reason why this one is going where it is, and moving forward it's just not something I'm going to really reach for right now. I do also wish we had just a little bit more depth in this palette. I wish we had a shade or 2 that went like a smidge lighter, and then we had maybe this one went a tiny bit darker, just so I could get that extra depth that I'm personally looking for in a palette. But the shimmers in here are absolutely stunning. This one right here is by far my favorite in the palette. It has this most beautiful blue to green to purple shift to it, and this one right next to it is beautiful as well. It's very unique. It has like a bronzy gold to a purple flip to it. Absolutely stunning on the lid. I am very impressed with the quality in this palette, and it makes me excited for this brand. Coming in at number 6 is going to be the Mist Witch palette from Shall We. This is another beautiful Sea Beauty brand that I tried in that haul about 3 weeks to a month ago at this point. I can't remember exactly how long it's been, but I really enjoyed this palette. I love the looks that I created with it. I love the color story in here. This really pretty emerald green shimmer over here is such a beautiful addition to this palette. Now the formula in here is very nice. I found it to be very user friendly, and it is definitely more on the buildable side as pigmentation goes, and it's a little bit softer in comparison to the other palettes in that video. I don't mean that you're going to get a soft wash of color with this, because like I said, the pigmentation is 100% there. It's just not quite as punchy and vibrant right out the gate as those are. But with that being said, you're also not going to get any fallout with this one. So if you are somebody who is looking to get into Sea Beauty and maybe you're not 100% comfortable with your blending skills or doing your eye makeup, I think this would be a really good place to start, because this is a very user-friendly formula, and I have really enjoyed playing with it. Another thing that I love from the brand is they give you an option of the full-size palette or a mini version. This is a mini version, and the pans in here are very small compared to my finger right here. I don't have huge hands, but I also don't have like super skinny fingers either, so just something to kind of keep in mind when you're purchasing one of these if you decide to do so. I think there's like a $10 price difference, so just something I want to put out there for y'all. But this is a beautiful palette, and I'm really excited about this brand. I have several more to play with. All right, so we are down to our top 5 palettes, and all of these are favorites. I have really enjoyed playing with every single one of them. I do love the color story in all of them. The formulas are fantastic. There is no quality issues across the board, so I'm not going to harp too much about the formulas in these palettes. I'm more so just going to go over my personal thoughts, preferences, and things like that when it comes to these, but just know that any single one of these could have been number 1. It really just comes down to what I am gravitating towards at this moment in time. So with that being said, coming in at number 5, we have the El Camino and the Paradise Cove palette from Gourmande Girls in collaboration with Ladybug Glow. I was so excited to see that Ladybug Glow collabed with her best friend to create these 2 palettes because these are beautiful. These were featured in the August Ice Cream Beauty box. I ended up adding on the second one for $10 because I would have purchased it anyway, but you can pick up both of these on the Gourmande Girls website in case you are not subscribed to Ice Cream Beauty box and you want to pick these up. Now, I thought the El Camino was going to be my favorite color story based off of what you see in here. It's got the pinks, it's got the greens. I love the black in here. Not a big fan of the gray, but I can work around it. And I love that we have this purple shimmer. This is a beautiful palette. I have really enjoyed the looks that I've created with this one. But to my surprise, Paradise Cove is actually my favorite of the 2. I love this color story in here. I have really been enjoying like blues and greens with a pop of neon yellow. I've really been loving a pop of neon yellow or a neon green in the inner corner anyway. If you've been watching my videos, you know that. But this color story is so beautiful. It's just vibrant. It's tropical. I really enjoy it. I love the shimmers in here as well. But what I have come to find out is that these 2 palettes make a beautiful companion for one another. If I can open them up and show you. So if you mix these 2 palettes together, you can get absolutely beautiful looks. So while you can create beautiful looks on their own, I love mixing them together and kind of getting really creative with the color stories in here. I love that there is no color overlap with either of these either. You've got a dark brown, you've got a dark black, you've got lighter greens and things like that. You've got lighter grays and that over here. Absolutely beautiful palettes. I've really, really enjoyed playing with these and I'm so happy to have these. Number 4 is going to the Citrus Punch palette from Simply Posh. This one is one that I have been lusting after for such a long time. It originally came out summer of 2023 and I was going to pick it up and I saw a lot of people say that they had a hard time with hard panning in the shimmers in this one. So ultimately I skipped out on it, but every time I saw somebody playing with it or using it or just in their collection, I lusted after it because it is bright, it is vibrant. I love the colors in here. So when Simply Posh said that they had reformulated it and they were going to relaunch this palette, I jumped all over it and I have zero regrets. The only regret I have is that they didn't do it sooner because this is such a beautiful palette. If you love bright, punchy, almost neon shades, this is going to be the perfect palette for you. These aren't exactly neons. I will say these 2 right here do come off a little bit more neon in my skin tone, and I would say they probably would on a deeper skin tone as well, but they don't perform like a neon. They perform more like a pastel shade, so definitely more of an accent. I wouldn't use them to blend out or anything like that, but I love the color combination in here. There is no overlap in here. This shade right here, this really deep berry shade, is absolutely beautiful on the lid. This is probably my favorite palette from the brand. I only have 3, but this is my favorite for sure. Coming in at number 3, we had the Legend of Ardra palette from Adept Cosmetics. This was a very limited edition palette, and unfortunately, I think it's sold out and no longer available. So I'm not going to stay on this too long because if you don't already have it, you can't pick it up. And if you do have it, you already know about the formula and the shimmers and everything in here. But I think this is beautiful. This has the good matte formula from Adept that I know and love. The shimmers in here are beautiful. These 2 right here are so unique and beautiful. You can 100% go in and swirl them all together, or you can get really precise with a brush and kind of pick out the shade that you want. There's a lot of variety in here. I really enjoyed the looks that I played with it, that I've made with it, and I'm hoping that maybe they will bring it back if the demand calls for it. They did that with the Inspired palette. It was very limited edition. They said once it was gone, and they did eventually bring it back. So fingers crossed if they do, and if they do and you like the color story, I would definitely say jump on it because this one is beautiful. Coming in at number 2 is the Glaminatrix Barely Basic palette. This one is absolutely beautiful. This is probably my favorite palette from the brand. I don't have a lot from the brand, but out of the ones that I do have and the ones that I have seen on their website, I think this is probably my favorite color story. This is definitely a very fall neutral leaning color story, especially if you are somebody who loves color. But if you are a neutral lover, this could be that perfect little step into color without being overwhelming or too intense. The matte formula in here is so beautiful. They are very easy to work with, nice and pigmented. I told y'all quality in all of these is beautiful. I love the gradient in these palettes. I really appreciate that we got this very light, almost white blending out shade. You've got a lot of depth in here. The shimmers in here are beautiful as well. These iridescent toppers up here are so beautiful and transformative on the lid. And this middle row right here of these shimmers, they are a little bit more on that chunky side. So if you're not careful, you can get a little bit of fallout. But if you spray your brush or make sure that you go in with a good tacky primer, you shouldn't get too much and it shouldn't be much of an issue. I don't get any creasing with this. I love the looks that I've created, and this is barely a basic palette. It's a really good staple palette to have in your collection. It's very easy to create looks with this. I absolutely love this one so much. And coming in at number 1 is going to be the Night Spider palette from Narimi. This is another C Beauty brand, and it's by far my absolute favorite out of all the C Beauty brands that I have tried to date. This was the first one that I pulled to create looks with for that C Beauty haul, and I was immediately blown away by the performance of this palette. The mattes in here are so intense. They are so beautifully pigmented. They are very easy to blend and manipulate on the lid, but with that being said, this is a very soft matte formula, so you are going to get a ton of kick up in the pan, and you are going to get fallout. It's inevitable. No matter what you do, you're gonna get fallout. So if you're someone like me who likes to do your base makeup before you do your eyes, make sure that you powder under your eyes really well. I cannot stress that enough, because if you do, it will just fluff away, no problem. But if you don't, it will stick and it will create a mess. So just something to keep in mind. It is an extra step that you have to take, but for me personally, I find this formula to be 100% worth it. The shimmers in here are beautiful as well. They are so intense and reflective. They are very smooth, almost like a wet velvety feeling. They don't emphasize texture. I don't get any creasing or anything like that. This is a beautiful palette, and I have 100% fallen head over heels with this brand, and there's a reason that it's number 1, and this is definitely going to rank very high for my year-end palette ranking, and this may be a new absolute favorite brand of mine out of everything that I have ever tried. Alright y'all, so that is going to complete this ranking. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Let me know all of your thoughts down below. Do you have any of these palettes? If you do, how would you have ranked them? What is your number 1 palette that you have tried as of late? I want to know it all. Let's have that conversation. Light up that comment section, and as usual, I want to thank you all so much for watching my video and spending your time with me. It truly does mean so much to me. And if you like this video, make sure you give it a big thumbs up before you leave. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click on that notification bell so that you can be notified of all my future posts here on my channel. I do post quite a few videos every single week, and I wouldn't want you to miss one. But until my next video, have a good one. Bye.